I just turned 29, and these are some of the things that life has really taught me so far. Number one is, at some point, you would have to question everything that you've learned growing up. At some point, you get to question everything that you have learned leading up to this moment. And this is the point where you start to understand or you start to figure out what is actually valuable to you. Not what the society says is valuable, not what the society made you believe is valuable, not what you're being told should be valuable. You really get to understand what really is valuable to you. And this is the point where you also get to understand who you really are. Because at some point, you would have to ask that question. That's going to be the beginning of your growth as a person. You're going to have a better understanding of who you really are. You're going to also have a better understanding about the things that you value or about the things that you choose to value. So, yeah, at some point, you would have to question everything that you've been taught leading up to this moment. The second one is, you are not your mind. We like to think that we are our thoughts. But when you get really good at separating your thoughts from exactly who you are, you get to understand that your thoughts has been conditioned. And this also takes me back to the first point where I said you have to question everything that you've been taught leading up to this moment, because your thoughts are being conditioned by your past experience. Your thoughts are being conditioned by the things that you've experienced in the past, the people that you've come across, the places that you've been to, and also your trauma. So you get to understand that you are not really your mind. The things that you think about are not necessarily facts. And we like to believe everything we think about ourselves. But when you start to understand that your thoughts are actually separate from who you are, because your thoughts are your conditioned self, and who you are is actually something that you really have to figure out. You don't have to run from your thoughts. You do not have to seek a solution to your thoughts or even try to make a meaning out of your thoughts. You just have to sit back, watch your thoughts, observe your thoughts, stay with whatever is coming up within you as much as you can until you can gain a little bit of clarity about what it is. Because if you don't have control over your mind is going to control you. What most people do is they don't really like what they think about themselves, because the image that they see when they think about themselves is really an ugly image. They try to find a quick fix to whatever it's coming up within them, or they look for distractions, and this can come up in your addictions. But if you're able to understand that your thoughts is not really who you are, you can stand a little bit further from your thoughts, really observe them, see them for really what they are, stay with the intensity of what is coming up inside of you, observe, feel it through and through. In that period where you're really observing, you can get to know what is really true and what is not. Your mind keeps playing tricks on you. It keeps bringing up scenario. But when you get to understand that that is the conditioned you, not the real you, then you can actually have the ability to step back and really just observe it and see things for really what they are. Number three is, your perception about life creates your reality. Two people might go through the same situation and have a different experience. Two people might go through the same situation and attach a different meaning to those situations. So at the end of the day, it's not really about what happened to you, it's about the relationship you built with that situation. It's about what meaning did you attach to that situation. Because when you get to realize that you can easily change your reality just by changing your perception about life and the things that happens to around you, you get to understand that you do not have to try to change things externally, because the real change that you need is within you. Sometimes we expect people to treat us a certain way. We expect people to perceive us a certain way. We always want to control the outcomes in whatever situation that we found ourselves in. The real control comes from being able to control who you are. It comes from really understanding who you are as a person, and understanding that all the power that you need is actually within you, and all the control that you need is being in control of who you are as a person, not who the other person is, or not how the other person is going to approach this situation with you. You need to control the things that you can control, which is first yourself. You can control how you react to situations. You can control how you respond to situations. You can control the level of effects a situation can have on you. That is where your control is. That is where the real control is. It's not on external things. It's not on how people or how situations are going to react to you, but how you can react to situations. So when you start understanding that your perception creates your reality, and this goes back to being able to question things that you've learned leading up to this moment, because sometimes the way you perceive the world comes from your past experience, it comes from your conditioning, and then you get to perceive the world based on your conditioning. If you're trying to shift your reality, you need to be able to shift your perception, because that is where you have all the control. You need to be able to decide the relationship you have with things, or your environment, or people around you, or whatever situation that you find yourself, because whatever relationship you decide to adopt is what's going to create your reality in that present situation. But what most people do is they always try to manipulate the outcome of every situation that they find themselves in. That comes from a place of control, because you are trying to control the things that are way out of your control, not knowing that the real control comes from within. Because if you're able to shift your perception, how you perceive things that are happening to you, the world and the people around you are just going to adjust. You don't have the control over other people, but you have total control over yourself. And your perception comes from years of your condition. So if you're able to separate yourself from your conditioned self, you can be able to adopt a different perception towards things and situations that you find yourself. And maybe in that dynamic, you can start building or creating a totally entire reality for yourself. Because the world is not happening to you, it's literally happening for you. And you decide the meaning you give to things that happen to you. And whatever meaning you decide to give it is what it becomes for you. If you decide that a situation is so bad and you can never get out of it, then it becomes so bad and you will never get out of it. But if you decide that the situation is so bad, but you're going to get out of it, regardless of how bad it is, you're always going to find a way out of it. So your perception always turns out to be your reality. And the fourth one is, the most courageous thing that you can do as a man is to love. I'm not a love expert, but I know for one that love is not just a feeling. It's not just about the butterflies that you feel in your stomach. Anyone can feel butterflies, or anybody who gives them attention consistently. But I think the closest thing to real love is truth. You can never move towards real love if you do not know the truth about who you are, stand in that truth, and bring that truth forward to whoever you want to be in love with. Because here is what it does for you. You need two people who creates an environment where the truth can be brought forward. And in that environment, there is going to be a complete acceptance of who they are, which is like saying, I see you for exactly who you are. I'm not afraid of what I see in you, and I accept you for exactly who you are. From that dynamic, they can both aim to a greater good. They can both aim to something greater than just they themselves. But the truth has to be there, and there has to be an acceptance of the truth of who they really are. And then from that dynamic, they aim for something greater than they themselves. It's so scary for most men to fall in love, because I know a lot of people that I know a lot of men that can lay their life for the people that they care for. They can go to war for people that they care for, but they can never be vulnerable, because vulnerability requires truth, and truth requires you to be fully seen. And being seen feels like death for most men. Society has conditioned us to always carry the cross, have it all figured out, you know, always appear to be perfect. There is no room for you to be imperfect as a human being. So, in that conditioning, you put up a performance and you live and die with that performance. That hinders you from being vulnerable with the people that you love. For you to actually love and be loved, you need to present truthfully who you are. And for you to be able to live in that truth, you need to be vulnerable. And for you to be vulnerable, that means you're going to be seen. That means that you get to be imperfect. If the truth is not the foundation on which you're building your relationship, then you're building it on the wrong foundation, regardless of how beautiful it might look on the outside. This is so scary for men, because they do not want to be seen. They do not want to appear clueless. They cannot afford to appear imperfect. They do not know how to say, I'm really tired and I don't have it all figured out. But until you can find someone that's going to let you bring forth that part of you that can be imperfect, and accept that part of you, not in a way of encouraging your dysfunction or encouraging your bad habits, but in a way of saying, I see you fully for who you are, and I'm not scared of that part of you, and I accept you for exactly who you are. But we have to do better. And it takes a lot of courage to do that. And that's why, for most men, the most courageous thing they can do is actually to love, because it strips them of all the shame they have attached to not being able to perform. In that, you can actually start moving towards something real with somebody else. If you can create an environment where you can bring forth your truth and let the other person bring forth their truths, and you can accept each other for exactly who you are while working towards a greater good, I think in that dynamic, you can start working towards something that is real.